programs. I'm glad you're here to listen to wonderful program coming to you. And please don't forget to subscribe or give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. I know it has. We are late in our schedule. On the studio, we have Dr. Nyacha Ndimu, and then we have Joshua Matunduro Ndimu. You say you are also Ndimu.
Yes.
So I have two Ndimus, which is good.
Yep.
Now we are here to give a scorecard about 10 years of devolution. What are some of the targets and measures? As you know, all governors are in Washington County, Eldoret, the order of this week, and they are coming to end tomorrow. Looking on the celebrating about 10 years of devolution since the 2010 Constitution. Now, it's also we want to give them a scorecard. We want to give the system. Since we went into devolution, you know, Kenya used to be a unitary government where we had only a central government with the 8 provinces, and then we had districts. Then we changed into a devolved system where we have 47 counties. What can we say? What has changed since Kenya came ushered a new constitution with a new system of government? Dr. Ndimu, what is your take 10 years down the road?
Thank you again for inviting me to this forum. And thank you and welcome my friend Joshua Matundura as well. The system of government that changed in 2010 and came into effect 2013 elections for the first time. And now 10 years down the road, which is 2023. Indeed, we have seen a lot of tremendous developments that will not be achieved in the first 50 years of independence compared to the last 10 years. If we had remained a developed government at independence, I believe we will be really making a lot of strides in terms of changing the lives of our people, especially in the rural areas, as we have seen in the last 10 years. So let's start with a few high-level things that we have seen. And I'll go with the counties that I know I'm very familiar with, and that is the county of Kisii and Nyamira. The rural development, especially the rural roads, the network, although not to the standards that we need them to be at, we have seen tremendous opening up of the rural areas in terms of infrastructure. We also have seen devolution of money is coming down to the people than it was previously. Although one will say there's a lot of corruption, but the corruption is happening at the local level, where money is changing hands at the local level, and that money somehow changes people's lives at the local level than previously it was. So yes, tremendous changes, especially in terms of infrastructure. We aren't yet to see what we thought we will see in terms of the healthcare system changing, because it was a developed system where we want to see a development of more clinics, advanced technology coming all the way into the local areas. We are yet to see that. But I think overall, we're seeing the trajectory is heading to the right direction.
Okay, thank you. Joshua, what's your take on that? Hello? Joshua Matundura, are you with us?
It appears like the connection, he appears frozen.
Yeah, I think he has lost the connection. Yeah, okay. I don't know what happened to him. Now, I wanted to play a clip for you, something which the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador,
Now that's how I'm talking about Africa to U.S. businesses. Let's zoom in on how I'm talking about why Kenya should be everyone's destination in Africa. Kenya is the most stable democracy in Africa. Kenya is the gateway to the East African market of almost 500 million consumers. Kenya is the regional logistics hub. Kenya is the leading regional financial hub, and Kenya, with its Silicon Savannah and super smart engineers, is the region's ICT hub. Kenya is a leading destination for foreign direct investment and venture capital, and Kenya has a young, educated, entrepreneurial, and English-speaking workforce. Kenya generates, as I said, over 93% of its energy from renewable sources, and Kenya's largest export market is the United States. Let me repeat, Kenya's largest export is the United States, and we feel Kenya is ready for liftoff as it diversifies. Let me unpack a couple of these areas. Democracy. I arrived in Kenya days before the August 22 general elections. What I witnessed was nothing short of remarkable. Kenya held what many analysts and commentators say was the freest, fairest, and most credible election in Kenyan history. The elections were observed by international and local election organizations, and the results were upheld by the Kenyan Supreme Court, and power was transferred orderly and peacefully at the time. Now, gateway to East Africa. As I said, Kenya is the gateway to East Africa. 80%.
Now, that's one of the most that is the ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Kenya was giving that at the Devolution Conference, and I know it has brought many cheaters in the government. What is your take on what the ambassadors talked on that conference?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that speech is really from that conference. I think that speech was from a couple months ago, when they had, I think in Nairobi somewhere, or it's Kiseni, something, I think like that.
No. He was talking at the conference, actually.
Really? I saw the pan at the background was you said something, you said, and it was
no. He was giving a presentation on the conference, and then they those people. You know, these conferences are sponsored by different organizations. So
yes, so the ambassador there kind of was selling Kenya. She's actually a better salesman of Kenya than any Kenyan can do in terms of her presentation. That's what the one thing I just realized. Mm-hmm. She really was very prepared to sell Kenya to Kenyans. Incidentally, I think that presentation could have been very ideal in a foreign land where she's selling Kenya. I would say she's a very good salesperson. She's a very good business person in that presentation. That's a credit. If you asked, especially the tail end of her speech, where she said that Kenya was holding held a very credible, very viable, and most amazing election in the history of Kenya and perhaps in Africa, it's a song to those who are supporting the current regime, and to the half of the country they will tell her that's not correct. So it depends on who you are talking to, because there's one half of the population in Kenya who felt that the elections were not credible, who felt that their voting did not count, who felt that they wasted a whole day or a whole 3-4 months of campaigning, and they really never got the results they expected to get, even though they thought that the elections were stolen. Yeah. So there's one half of the population in Kenya who think otherwise of what she said. And the last statement I'll make is it really in order, or is it in her profile, or is on her docket to exclusively say what she said? That's questionable too, because he's an ambassador who is representing not only the United States, but also giving the image of the United States to the Kenyan people, not one half of the Kenyan people.
Oh, thank you. Joshua, can you hear us now? We
yes,
lost
sorry. I had a little bit of a technical hinge, so I had to go and try to fix it. I think now I'm up and running. I hope everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, we wanted you to...
Am I loud and clear now?
Yeah, you can talk.
Okay. Yep, to alluding to what Dr. Nechai has just said, I think the way I'm looking at the U.S. ambassador's statement there, for me, I think that he's trying to play a little bit of politics because, our country, half of the country, don't believe that the results of the elections were free and fair. So it actually depends on which side are you standing. Because now, for instance, if it was the current regime that was in the opposition and the American ambassador says that the elections were free and fair, definitely they could be against it. So, and that's why I'm seeing the president trying to support what the ambassador just said, and trying to brush away what Honorable Raila Odinga was talking about, that the U.S. should stay away from politics and leave Kenya, because Kenya is a sovereign state and they know how to handle their own issues. So I think that's a little bit of politics that was playing over there. But it all depends on what side you are, and I mean that's my argument as far as that one is concerned.
Now, I want us to be very realistic. Like you, Dr. Ndimu, we have even talked about this thing before. Yes, he said that Kenya's election was free and fair. What is your verdict on this? Because we are in the media and we want to be honest. Let us not be biased.
That's a good question there. Every nation has its own personal interest wherever they are. Mm-hmm. The United States will always defend what their interests are, regardless. Yeah. Whether you find them here within the United States, you find them in Russia, you find them in Kenya, they will still be defending their own interests.
Yeah.
So what the ambassador was protecting was not really the Kenyan interest, it was the American interest, and that's why he's actually right in Kenya. So it's the American interest that the current president be president. Mm-hmm. And so I, to be honest with you, and if you go back to the documents that were released, probably 6 years ago when Obama was leaving office, the U.S. government does release what we call confidential information to the public 50 years down the road. We all know what happened in 1963 in Congo. The government of the United States was responsible for the killing of Pierrot Lumumba in Congo because they thought he was not for their interests. The government of the United States do things for their own personal interests. Mm-hmm. So we don't know until such a time that in the future, somebody somewhere will come and tell you that the people of Kenya really never elected Ruto. He was selected by somebody sitting somewhere.
Okay. So do you think that the U.S. government had a hand in meddling on the election of Kenya?
I would not say because I have no evidence of it. Because if somebody asks me to give evidence, I can't give evidence. I can only just prosecute and give you a theory. It's more like a conspiracy theory of saying, yeah, they were responsible for it, but I have no evidence of it. But what I will tell you for sure is every government, especially the West, when it comes to the African governments, they have their own personal interests. When you see them supporting somebody so strongly, obviously that person is giving them what they need. Then we can question, is it legitimately the person who was elected, or was he elected and propelled to power because of some interest somewhere outside of the Republic of Kenya? That's what we can question. Just like I remember what the Americans themselves were asking and questioning so much about the Trump regime when they say that he was propelled and propped by Putin of Russia, that he wasn't serving the interests of Russia than the American interests. So it's the same thing in this case, where people will question, why are they coming out so strongly for Ruto? Why wouldn't they be just focusing on something else, but strongly really saying it was the most fair, it was the most credible, it was verifiable, it was all this. Who is asking her to do that? Are they defending something we don't know? Perhaps not. I don't know.
Thank you.
Thinking about that,
Joshua, what do you have to say?
To that, I can actually say, I mean, there's no democracies in the whole world that is 100% perfect. It's the same case that is going on right now with Trump. Trump is saying that the elections were stolen, and Biden is illegitimately in power. Mm-hmm. And pretty much that's what we're saying. We're seeing in Kenya. That's what the opposition is trying to do. I mean, it's politics. But what I can say is, to me, you know, for the few elections that I've actually seen, you know, happen in Kenya, I think the last election, the 2022 election, was a little, you know, it was more incredible. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. It was not perfect, but actually everything was out there for everybody to see. I mean, we know that the conclusion was not the best. You know, somehow the opposition is saying that, oh, you know, the servers were not open, or maybe things were doctored towards the end. But you know, I believe that that was the best election that Kenya has ever held. I mean, it was more, I was way more transparent than the previous, you know, elections that we have seen in Kenya. And, you know, America has its own interests, just like what Dr. Nyataya said. I mean, I had the president yesterday say that the U.S. has invested up to 200 billion Kenyan shillings in Kenya. I mean, they have interest in Kenya, you know.
Yeah.
And the best they can do, and that's what they've learned, is that they don't want to just play politics with the opposition, because the opposition doesn't have power. They better align themselves with the sitting president and be able to get their interest articulated and performed. I mean, that's how I'm actually seeing this whole thing.
Yeah, Dr. Ndim, you know, at times we want to say, was it a fact or a fallacy that he was talking that the Kenyan election was free and fair? And they actually even said that it was, they went even to the Supreme Court, they gave the election as free and fair. So will we say that he was exaggerating the truth, or that was the truth? You know, we are in the media, we have to be honest that we are only using the facts we have. What's your
Absolutely. Yeah, and I will tell you what, perception is reality, and if you are perceived to be biased, the person perceiving you to be biased, that's a reality to that person perceiving you to be biased. So the question that we ask in return is, why would America be so strongly for this regime? Why couldn't they keep quiet and move on, just like they did in 2017 when Uhuru won and moved on? I never saw them really come strongly supporting Uhuru like they're doing Ruto. I never saw them do that. And in 2000, I wanna take my friend Joshua back to 2002. And if you ask me, actually, the most credible, the most transparent election that Kenya has ever held, and perhaps the only one that I can point at, is 2002, where the Kenyans came out in large numbers and therefore counted, actually. And if you ask me about this past election, it was so close to even, I don't know. It was so close. If you look at really exactly what happened, you can call it very, very viable. You can call it very transparent. You can call it whatever you call it. But there's this one tiny half of the population that is saying, no, we don't believe it. Why do you think they're questioning it? When they were saying, hey, open the servers, why couldn't they open the servers? Why couldn't they?
But this is a question I want to ask. A year ago, we went to election. And in that election, we were electing 6 positions. From the MCA, we came to the member of parliament, the woman representative, the senator, the governor, then the president. This was the election, we did not see so many petitions. There were not many petitions, actually. We didn't see any, we have not seen any petition against our governor, which went through. Even some of the people who did that, they never succeeded. We have never had a by-election. Why do we feel, if all these 5 positions, we did not see many of those? Why do we want to feel like it is only the president's, which was not credible? You know, let us question ourselves. Trump is in court right now for trying to influence people that the election was stolen. I mean, don't you think also we need to come as Kenyans? Why are not people complaining about this position that only the presidential was stolen?
What I can say is this, if you allow me, Dr. Mani, trying to talk about what Dr. Nachaya has just said about the credibility of the 2002 elections. if you look at that election, it's a completely different election as compared to whatever we had in 2022. And here's the reason. We were having an outgoing president, Moi, who did not have any interest. He was tired, he was retired, and he was going home. He didn't care about what was going on. He was ready to give out the power. And then we are having Uhuru Kenyatta, who is actually vying for the first time. It's like he was just testing the waters. He did not really wanted to die for it. And then, we are seeing him quickly, accepting and letting the country move on. So the interest for the opposition at that particular election, as I can put it, getting the facts from the way politicians act is, the opposition was not really, they had nothing to really fight for, and that's why they accepted, and everybody looked like it was a unanimously accepted elections, and it was clear because the opposition did not want to fight back. We have seen where like now, like Trump and Biden. I mean, Biden really won hands down, but still we're seeing Trump trying to deny that the elections was not fair. So in that case, even if maybe Uhuru Kenyatta had wanted to go forward and start claiming that the elections were wrong, then to some extent we could have some part of the population feeling that the elections was not fair. So when you compare it with now the 2022, we are seeing Raila Odinga, having his own last bullet, and he's not believing that he lost because he did not even cross his mind that he's gonna lose. So he's gonna try to, deny and bring all these allegations, open the servers. I mean, the case went to the court, High Court. I mean, that's the highest place they could go and dispute an election. And actually, the court pronounced itself very clear, and they said that he lost the elections. So to me, I think that's why I kind of think that it was a very credible election. I mean, we will always have the losers, we will always have the winners, and the faster the people move forward and accept, it's gonna be best for the country. But if you believe on what politicians say, you will always have a tug of war, and that's how they thrive in their politics. That's
yes, and I agree entirely, Joshua, with your assessment there. Moving on is very critical, whether you lost it fairly or unfairly, because sometimes the context, if you are losing like he lost the last election, honestly, most people, even I think Ruto was surprised that he won the elections himself. Most people thought he was going to win hands down.
That's true.
Yeah. So the question is whether you lose fairly or unfairly, and you were in the game, and Odinga has been in the game for many years. If he lost unfairly, then he will still praise him, because how can he lose unfairly when he had all these resources handed to him? Where was he? Was he sleeping on the job? It's really questionable that he can lose unfairly still. You know what I mean? I'm not supporting that we open the servers, because so what? Where are we heading back to? So what? So what I'm saying is, the question, if credibility is going to be questioned, and I've seen people question this over and over and over again, obviously when people question something, the people in authority, the people in office also want to go and see what else could we have done differently so that these questions do not arise again. Because we have come a long way. Kenya, we have come a long way. In fact, our democracy, you can say, is more advanced than even the West, because they're able to see things. In fact, it's more advanced than the West, I will tell you. Yeah. So because of these questions that we are raising today, or they're being raised by other people, I think our systems are being tested. I think our systems will come out stronger. I think it's good for them to keep questioning. I think it's good. I mean, at the end of the day, our systems will be much stronger. Our systems in the future will serve us better than they are now. Right now, I think it's a good thing for them to keep questioning those. Yeah. In my opinion.
And I totally agree. The reason why we are talking about devolution, but it's because she talked this on a devolution conference. I have seen, I've been an election judge in America during elections. I can tell you, election in America is not secure as Kenyan election is, because here in America, it's not a must that you ask somebody to show an ID before you can vote. Actually, as only to give you the name, and you check on the system, and they will confirm the address. Boom. Which is totally different. That in Kenya, you have to use your fingerprints to vote. That's why when it comes that somebody meddles with the system, it's another day. But I want us to see where I would think that the ambassador could have talked much. There are so many things. She appeared more of a business attaché than an ambassador, because there are many issues dogging Kenyans right now, which you need to talk about. Many Kenyans are not even getting appointments to the embassy to get visas to come, like to attend their children's graduation in the United States of America, to attend funerals. Even the DV Rotary, they are not being called. Those are some of the things even the government of Kenya need to question the ambassador. Ambassador is not doing all of that. Imagine another guy was complaining that he wanted his parents to attend his graduation, and the only earliest date they will get is April 2024. Those are some of the things which the ambassador needs to address than appearing like a business attaché. And that is even actually something which is more of interest to Kenyans than talking about the interests of America, how America sees Kenya. I feel like the ambassador failed the point, although she was talking right, but that should not be. He's only telling us that what America is seeing in Kenya is the opportunities they want to exploit in Kenya. That's what he was talking about. But now coming to the devolution, what I don't see how 10 years down the road. Now let us talk about the governors. How have governors acted? Like, can we say that our governors have done a good job? Or what do you have to say? Joshua?
In my view, I think devolution is really a very good thing that happened to our country. I'll start by supporting it. Though we are having a lot of setbacks, and more especially, when it comes to the issue of leadership, because our governors have been given and allocated a lot of money, and it is just happening that they're not actually putting all this money they're getting to the right sources.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some governors that we know who have actually done a very good job, and I really commend them for that job. But there's some few governors, some bad apples, as usual, who actually haven't done what is supposed to be done. We're having a lot of petition cases in court where governors have misappropriated money, it's really not a good thing to even talk about, because these are people who have been given an opportunity to serve, but because of that corruption, some of them have not really done a very good job. But devolution as a whole, it's a very good thing, and if our leaders and governors could actually do the right thing that they're supposed to do, I actually think we're gonna reap a lot of good fruits out of the devolution as a whole. So some governors have not done a good job, others are trying, but it's something that we need to encourage our governors to keep on and working hard towards achieving this dream that is in our constitution.
Thank you. Dr. Lim.
That's a good question there. Three things come out very strongly in these last 10 years. One, which my friend there, Joshua, in addition to what he has just said, we have small demigods at the county level. We thought we were removing the big man syndrome, but we developed the big man syndrome down to the county levels, and that's one thing that people must start seeing. And I don't know how we can remove that big man syndrome coming down to the county levels, where the people feel like they are erecting a boss rather than erecting a servant.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing that I don't know how we can remove it from the psyche of the people to start holding those governors accountable. And I think what I saw in Eldoret these past 2 weeks is very, very promising, that at some point our populace is now growing more to be more educated, to be more informed, that they can hold those people accountable and not be calling them His Excellency. And I wonder where this His Excellency came from. We should not be having those titles. They should be called Mr. Governor or Miss Governor, and that should be it. Because there are some titles that are being given to these, like Your Excellency the President. We should call him Mr. President, and then we move on, because those titles sometimes get into their heads, and they assume that people are serving them instead of them serving the people. Number two, I don't want to belabor the point of corruption, where we have seen that if and when the money comes to the county levels, what they're looking at is not really serving the people and making that money work for the people. They have actually putting in money into their pockets and taking money away from the counties, especially, and bringing them back to the city. Because if they do a deeper research, they will discover that the money that has been sent to these local far-flung counties, that money makes its way back to Nairobi again for investment by the corrupt officers at the county level. So those are the two things that I'll point out that needs to be looked at.
Well, you have really raised a very important issue. I was wondering, did we create 47 embarrass? Because actually, as you say, I don't know where even that term His Excellency came from. I grew up, they were addressing Jomo Kenyatta as His Excellency. I don't know even where that title came from, but it devolved down to the counties, and I think that big man syndrome came there. In the couple of years back, I know there are very big cases of corruption, starting from Okodio Bado from Migori, Evans Kidero in Nairobi, with the corruption cases. I don't know even where they went. Then the Samburu governor, the Nankula, which were glaring evidence how they had siphoned money. There was a big trail of money, but I don't know what happened. Nobody has ever been prosecuted. Money, corrupt money fights back. So, what is the best way to fight corruption? And yet, the ambassador governors have been found 10 years down the road. What can we do so that we make this devolution work in terms of corruption? Matunda.
So I think the best way we need to do is that we need to employ systems whereby governors or those people in power can be easily accountable. Very transparent system that that these governors cannot be able to overpass them and maybe steal money. Pretty much it's only the system that can be able to help curb the corruption, because these people knows the system that has always been there seems not to be working, and that's why you see these people knows the loopholes where they can go and how they can go about and steal this money. So we need to have systems set in place, and also we need to have elect leaders who have it boils down to our people. We need to elect leaders with integrity. You cannot know very well that somebody is not is getting his money in a very dubious way, and just because he has a lot of money you end up voting for that person, because he's gonna have to bring back the money that he spent. So it's for me, it's a cumulative responsibility for all the citizens to say, you know what, enough is enough. If we want a change, then we need to be that change that we want. We need to start having leaders with integrity, leaders who are going to steer us, develop, and not leaders who are going to use their influence, money influence, get into power, and at the end of the day, we will start crying because they did not deliver whatever they promised us on the campaign trail.
Okay.
So that's mainly what I can think about
Okay.
cutting the corruption in the counties.
Okay. Dr. Nim.
I completely agree with my friend Joshua there. The leadership we have is a reflection of who we are, by the way. And but at the same time, I think we are heading in the right direction. If I go back to what we saw in Wasingishu County, in Eldoret these past 2 weeks, where the families that were aggrieved over a scholarship scandal really went on to holding those readers accountable. I think it's incumbent upon our people to start having town hall meetings, not just when there's a scandal, but town hall meetings all the time. In addition to what my friend there, Joshua mentioned, that we need to start looking at credible and people with integrity to be elected. But unfortunately, however, people who are of integrity rarely give themselves up for elections because they know how muddy and how worrying it is. They don't want their names to be spoiled, so they just keep away from it. Unfortunately, a good percentage of those people who win and who actually offer themselves for elections and elective offices are people of questionable integrity, which is the unfortunate piece. And you all know, and I know a few people of integrity who have run for office, they rarely make it because they want to follow the right path, but they never get to the office at all. That's why it reflects really poorly on the electorate, who are questioning and crying after the elections.
Now, the system was put in a place, and I want to narrow on the counties. When we created counties, we have a county assembly where MCAs are elected who are supposed to legislate, to oversight the executive, which is the governor. Now, the first assembly, we had so many governors being impeached, but when it came to the second term, those noises of MCAs went down. Now, the third assembly, which we are having now, other than the one in Meru, we don't hear that MCAs doing. What is happening is that MCAs are in bed with the governors, and this is how the governors have now experienced. They are now controlling the MCAs. And where they start, first, when the MCAs are elected, they make sure they have interest. They put their man as the speaker of most county assemblies. Most speakers are governors' cronies. If you go all of Kenya, MCAs are only wanted to vote for a specific person. And the speaker is the gateway, either to impeach the governor. So anything they want to question, there is a gateway here, which doesn't go. How can we able to give them the county assembly powers so that they can oversight the executive? When actually, yes, I'm telling you that is what is happening right now in most counties. Go do your research. Governors influence who becomes a speaker, and then they control the MCAs. What can be done on that so that oversight can be? Dr. Nim.
I really don't know what can be done to remove that new grip of power. It's known as power grab by the governor, grabbing the powers of the MCAs and using it in the wrong way. Again, it boils down to the elected MCAs, the people we elect from the ward level. If there were people of integrity, it does not matter how much money or influence the governor would have, because the MCA from the ward level has the power of the people who elected him to go represent them. Now, when he turns around and starts representing the interests of the governor, it means that the integrity of this person we elected is questionable, because he's not representing the interests of the people who in the first place elected him. So again, no matter how much laws that we create, no matter how much the system is strong, if the people of no integrity I put in that office, then then we are heading nowhere, because the system is as strong as the people we put in those offices. The officers are as strong as the people we put in those offices. You all know that in the previous regimes, for example, we have had very powerful cabinet secretaries. In this present government of Dr. Ruto, have you had any powerful? They are still holding the same offices. Have you heard of Matiang'i? Have you heard of Michuki? Have you heard of Simon Nyachai? We don't have any in this present government. So the officers are as good, but are as strong as the people we put in those offices. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, what I can say, I'm gonna have a little bit different view on this, because there's something called a culture of a country, and that's the way I'm seeing in our country right now. There's that culture that it's very hard to change the social mindset of people. We are a young democracy, and we are growing, and we really need to be very objective with what we're expecting, because a governor cannot just win elections and then end up giving a speaker to somebody that he doesn't even know. It's like being a president and you have the chief of staff, somebody who was rooting for the opposition. It's very risky. It's Africa, and you're gonna have to have your interests first so that you can even lead. Because in the first place, if you don't have that chance to lead, you're not gonna make any change. You're gonna have to fight according to the location or the battlefield that you are. You're not gonna use America's democracy or the way they do their things and bring it to Kenya, because Kenya and America they're completely different countries. So yes, of course, everybody agrees that we need to have people of integrity, just like what Dr. Nyachaya said. But let us just be a little bit objective here and say, well, as a leader, as a governor, you of course you need to secure yourself. That's the way it is. But my plea is to the people who are in elective offices, try as much as possible to stand for the right, because you are trying to make a difference and help our people. But putting your interests first completely, is not gonna help. We're not gonna go any far as a county or as a country, because at the end of it all, if you are successful and your neighbor is not successful, you're not gonna have the peace. So let everybody work towards making a difference and a change, and that's the only way that we can be able to move forward. Let us be honest, and let's root for the best thing that is on the table for everybody.
Yeah, but choosing somebody of integrity in Kenya now, the elections have become very commercialized. That you will have to have a lot of money to be elected. The voters wait for somebody who gives them money, and the people of integrity could be the least people who have that money. And for us talking about going that route, I don't know when we will be baptized on that, because elections in Kenya become very, very expensive. I know we have talked about this before. So even when after the people run for election, when they come, that's why even those MCAs come there with a lot of debt. So when they get somebody with a carrot to give them some money, even to pay some debts they incurred during campaigns, that's how they are rewarded. Unless the electorate get to vote someone of integrity without getting money, which I don't know. Do you see that in Kenya in any near future, where you can run an election when you are broke, you become a member of parliament?
I see that. I see that in the future, and I have this dream that at some point, maybe in our lifetime, maybe not, we will have that happening when majority of Kenyans will have enough in their pockets to be called middle class. When people cannot be bought for a few dollars to change their mind. When people will not say, "What have you given me most recently?" when people don't mind how much you have, when they look at the issues, when they start looking at the issues and the person carrying the message. Because majority of the corruption is because people are so poor that $2 make a huge difference in a person's life. So if you give them $2, they will never forget you. And that's why they fought in corrupt individuals. So until we have this middle class, people rise up from poverty, until we have a majority of Kenyans in that bracket of being able to feed for themselves, fend for their children, and keep healthy, until that time, we will still continue having this same system. And that's why you have noticed, though, that some leaders want to keep others poor so that they can have power over them. Until we have that poverty go away, we're going to be having the same caliber of leaders.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I actually agree with you, Daktari, because the only way is just to raise these people's lives so that they really don't depend. A hungry man is an angry man. So long as you don't have anything to eat, you can be bought for as little as what it takes. We have seen even some opposition member of parliament, switching over to the government just because they've been given a check. So, I mean, this thing is completely everywhere. It touches everywhere. It touches the politician. It touches the common mwananchi. And the only way, just as you've said, is to raise the standards of African people. And it's something that we are on the right trajectory for sure. We have a lot of a lot of issues, as we are moving to the right direction. But I know one time we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, and let's not give up. We got hope. Let's just face the issues and try to be very objective in everything that we are doing as a country. We're gonna be there one time for sure.
So that's quite interesting. So what would you think Kenya should do if we really need to fight corruption? Because corruption influences who becomes. It starts from a voter, I'll say. How can we kill corruption? Because surely even the ambassador said the only concern he has is corruption in Kenya, and corruption has been imparted everywhere in the system in Kenya. How can we start changing the minds of people until we eliminate corruption? What steps should Kenya do?
There's no one silver bullet you can say this is the only one thing we can do. I think it's a combination of so many things. Number one is the education that people are getting. People are more enlightened now than they were probably 20 years ago. I can tell you for sure. And the social media, for example, it really makes people get to know what is going on. And if we can take an example of what happened again, I'm going to take you back to the holding of accountable for the money that was lost for the scholarships. They call it scholarships in Wasingisu County the other day. I think that we can take that model and multiply that, not only just when their direct money is being lost, because those parents and students were up in arms because they directly gave money. If Kenyans will also realize that the taxes they are paying is also their direct money to the government, if they start holding the government accountable, I think that will be the beginning of a change in Kenya. Until people start realizing that anything they rebel government is them, because they always think the government is something sitting out there. The government is something that is an animal which is out there, and it's there to be grabbed. Because even Kenyans who are not working in government, they ask you, you've been in government for so long, what do you do for yourself? The moment they start changing around and knowing that the government is them, the government is me and you, that mindset might actually give a critical perspective to all Kenyans to know that the government is them, and therefore anything government, they're stealing from me.
Okay.
And then we start questioning them and holding them accountable.
Okay.
Yeah, and for me, what I can say is this. Like I said, I think this is a cultural thing that is in Africa, basically Africa as a whole, and it takes. For me, I think it's going to take a very strong leader who has the country's interest at heart to be able to get rid of this corruption. And that's why sometimes I will, if I was in power, I could actually go the Jerry Rawlings of Ghana's way of doing things, because they you know, it's hard to deal with Africans, more especially the people who are not exposed. You know, I mean, if I know that my leader is stealing, what makes me, you know, who works in the farm not to steal? Because my leader is stealing. If we get rid of all these, you know, top corrupt leaders in Kenya, and just, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to say execute them or anything, but if we get rid of them completely, you know, that's what I'm saying. We need a benevolent dictator in Kenya or in Africa to completely change the culture of Kenya, you know, when it comes to corruption, because there's no way. This thing is a virus. It's everywhere. You know, it's a cancer. You know, it's not something you can just wake up in the morning and say there's no corruption. But if we have that leader who is going to be selfless and mean what he's saying, you know, and you know, get these people, you know, indicted and taken to court, you know, and serve their complete terms in jail, you know, for corruption that they've done. The big guns. Let's start with the big top guns, because we don't want to be fighting the people who are stealing chicken in the village. That's not fighting corruption. You know, somebody stealing a chicken, he's going in for 10 years, and a corrupt leader who has stolen millions is elected back to the office. I mean, we're going to be honest about these conversations. And the only way we can do it is have these top leaders, these people who have taken a lot of money from the government, taken out and go through the whole process of law in a transparent way that every Kenyan is going to accept that justice has been done. It has not only been seen. I mean, I think that's the only way we can get out of this cancer. Otherwise, we have a long way to go.
Joshua, and you know this, as Dr. Nimu said, and they gave a practical example of Mandago. Mandago was the governor for 10 years. He's the same people who voted for him. He defrauded them a lot of money, and they used the same money to campaign to be a senator.
Yeah.
And it is said that even some of the loot, they took it to the route of campaign. So even this was just a showcase that he was arrested in Nakuru. It was only trying to massage the ego of those people so that they don't disturb the devolution conference in Eldoret. That was a show. He was arrested. They say, okay, people were happy. And after that, he got a bail. Somebody who has stolen more than $1 billion, only a bail for 500,000. And that case will end there because the objective. So even when Ruto was talking tough, you know that he's part of the syndicate. If from was an issue, he's a beneficiary. So I am not surprised that that case will not go anywhere at all. These campaigns you are talking about, they are financed by these corrupt people. And it's a sorry state in Kenya that if you don't have money, as we say, the cases are not going anywhere. As I said, have you had even one governor? Has he been indicted? Where did the case of Evans Kidero with all those evidence? I ask you about that. Because if really we want the devolution to work, we have to find a way of making these governors accountable. Actually, governors are given a lot of money at their own discretion. Recently, the lady from Meru, Kawira, who was acquitted by the Senate. Did you see what is happening? She has been found that she has been siphoning money through relatives, millions of money. So how can we make these loopholes? And that's why I say if devolution has to work, even when they are talking about those devolution conferences, that is something we need really to talk. Let us not go praise ourselves. Things are not working well in counties. If counties were working well with the money they have, Kenya could be very far. But that corruption is not working at all. And as you've given this, you may not see that position of becoming a governor because if you don't have that money. And I don't know where you can get all that money to dish all around a whole county to become a governor. So really, the question we need to ask ourselves, as we said that Kenya, we are heading in a right direction. We have not worked on the corruption, and it's something that needs to be done, which I really don't know. As much as we praise that they have done, if you see money which goes to people's pockets, my suggestion is the money for county assemblies should be separated from exchequer. Remember, all county assemblies, they have to go to the governor to get the money. You know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we want to make them independent, which I don't know whether they also would want to be independent. So it's my take, but I think we are coming to an end of our show. I would want to say, if you wanted to say something before we finish, Dr. Lim.
Yeah. Well, I will take you back to the 1776 and the United States and up to 1945. The cities of Chicago and New York were very corrupt, the most corrupt cities in the world. But when the citizenry rised up, they cleaned up those systems. Corruption went. And even when we saw that corruption rear its head not so long ago when Obama was elected, when the former governor of Illinois wanted to sell the seat that Obama was holding, he was held accountable. He went to jail. So until that time, when we have that cleanup, when people start holding their leaders accountable, until then, corruption will keep thriving. Those are my last parting words.
Thank you. Joshua.
Yeah, and my parting words. Me, I think that if we wanna clear the corruption in Africa, being the case scenario of Africa in this case, I think corruption should start. Should be, and we need to have leaders who are gonna start fighting corruption from the top down. That's the only way. Like now, Mandago is a friend of Ruto, and everybody knows it goes without saying. It's a no-brainer that there's nothing that is going to happen. So until we have those leaders dealt with, because these are the core, these are the people everybody is looking at. Until we have a leader who's going to deal with them and have these people accountable, then you can judge that Mamamboga down there who's corrupt or somebody who is stealing your phone. But before fighting corruption from the top up down, then I don't think it's gonna be just a normal day in Kenya, and we will talk and there's nothing we're gonna be doing about it. I mean, that's my take.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time, and we will stop here. I really appreciate your contribution, and we'll continue this next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for